Commander Lisa Martinez stood at the observation deck of the Starweaver, watching the approaching Zarkax diplomatic vessel. Its crystalline structure caught the light of the nearby star, creating rainbow patterns across the deck. After 15 years of space exploration, humanity was finally having its first official diplomatic meeting with the Zarkax Federation. The communication panel chimed. Lisa straightened her uniform and accepted the call. The alien face that appeared on the screen had deep purple skin and large silver eyes. "Greetings, Commander Martinez. I am High Diplomat Vextra of the Zarkax Federation." "Welcome, High Diplomat. We are honored to host these historic talks," Lisa replied with a practiced smile. "Our docking bay is ready for your shuttle's arrival." The alien's silver eyes widened slightly. "About that, Commander. We would prefer to host the talks aboard our vessel." Lisa frowned. This wasn't the first time she had encountered this behavior. During her years of service, she had noticed how alien species always seemed to avoid boarding human ships. "Is there a problem with our facilities?" "No, not at all," Vextra said quickly. "It is simply our custom to host first diplomatic meetings. We have prepared appropriate atmospheric conditions for human comfort." As she considered this, Lisa's science officer, Peter Gardner, approached with a data pad. She held up a finger, signaling him to wait. "High Diplomat, our ship was specifically prepared for this meeting. We have dedicated diplomatic facilities that—" "I must insist," Vextra interrupted, showing the first crack in their diplomatic facade. "We will host the talks, or we must postpone until other arrangements can be made." Peter leaned close to Lisa's ear. "Commander, I'm picking up some unusual readings. Their crew's vital signs show elevated stress patterns whenever they look at our ship." Lisa glanced at the data scrolling across Peter's pad. The readings were clear. Every alien on that ship was experiencing physical signs of distress. She had seen this before, too. 2 months ago, when they rescued a stranded Meridian trading vessel, the aliens had almost seemed to panic when offered shelter aboard the Starweaver. They had preferred to stay in their damaged ship until other alien help arrived. "Very well," Lisa conceded. "My team and I will prepare for transport to your vessel. Martine's out." After ending the transmission, she turned to Peter. "What do you make of this?" Peter ran a hand through his graying hair. "It's not just the Zarkax. I've been collecting data on these interactions. Every species we've encountered shows similar patterns of avoidance. They'll trade with us, talk with us, even form alliances, but they never want to board our ships." Lisa walked to the window, studying the alien vessel. "Document everything during this meeting. Every reaction, every reading, every odd behavior. There's something going on here, and I want to know what it is." As they prepared for transport, Lisa noticed something else strange. The Zarkax ship had positioned itself so that its sensors faced away from the Starweaver, as if they couldn't bear to look at it directly. It reminded her of how someone might avoid looking at a bright light or something disturbing. In the transport room, Lisa's team assembled. Peter was still taking readings, while Communications Officer Amy Walsh checked their universal translators. Security Chief Daniel Cooper did one final check of their diplomatic security protocols. Just before they beamed over, Peter grabbed Lisa's arm. "Commander, look at this." He showed her his readings again. "The Zarkax ship is generating some kind of protective field between us and them. But here's the weird part. It's not like any defensive shield I've ever seen. It's more like, well, if I didn't know better, I'd say it looks like a barrier against psychic energy." Lisa raised an eyebrow. "Psychic energy? That's not possible. We've proven humans don't have psychic abilities." "I know," Peter said, frowning at his pad. "That's what makes it so strange." As the transport beam activated, Lisa couldn't shake the feeling that they were missing something obvious. Something about their ships terrified other species, and she was determined to find out what it was. The mystery had gone on long enough. The last thing she saw before the transport took effect was the Starweaver's hull, gleaming in the starlight. Was it her imagination, Or did the metal seem to pulse, ever so slightly, with its own inner light? The meeting with the Zarkax lasted 6 hours. Throughout the entire session, Lisa noticed how the alien diplomats kept glancing at the human delegation's equipment with nervous expressions. Even their universal translators seemed to make them uncomfortable. Back on the Starweaver, Lisa called an emergency meeting with her senior staff in the conference room. Peter connected his data pad to the main screen, displaying a series of charts and readings. "Look at these patterns," he said, pointing to a graph. "Every time we brought out a piece of human technology, their stress levels spiked. But here's the interesting part. They had no problem with the technology we borrowed from the Meridians last month." Amy Walsh raised her hand. "I noticed something in their language patterns too. When they talked about our ship, they used words that usually translate to haunted or touched by spirits." "Spirits?" Daniel Cooper laughed. "Are they saying our ships are haunted?" Before anyone could respond, the door chimed. When it opened, a tall, slender alien stood in the doorway. Its blue-gray skin seemed to shimmer, and its 4 eyes blinked nervously. "I apologize for the intrusion," the alien said. "I am Krita, xenoanthropologist from the Centauri Alliance. I have been studying human-alien interactions, and I believe I can help you understand what's happening." Lisa noticed how Krita's hands trembled as they entered the room. The alien's feet barely touched the floor, as if they were trying to have minimal contact with the ship. "You're on a human ship," Peter said, voluntarily. "That's a first." Krita made a sound like chiming bells, their species' version of nervous laughter. "Yes, it took considerable mental preparation, but someone needs to bridge this gap of understanding." "What gap?" Lisa asked. "What are we missing? Have you noticed that all 7 spacefaring races avoid human vessels? It's not a coincidence. We all sense something about your ships that you cannot." Krita pulled out a device that looked like a crystal pyramid. "This is a consciousness meter. All sentient beings register on it to some degree." The alien activated the device. Immediately, it began pulsing with a deep red light. Krita's hands shook harder. "Your ship, it's alive. Not in the way biological ships are alive. It's as if the metal itself holds echoes of consciousness, human consciousness." The room fell silent. Lisa exchanged looks with her officers. "That's impossible," she said. "Our ships are just machines." "No," Krita replied. "They're more than that. Every human who worked to build this ship, every person who shaped its metal and installed its systems, they left something behind, a trace of themselves. To other species, your ships feel like they're filled with thousands of watching minds." Peter jumped up and grabbed his data pad. "The quantum manufacturing process. Remember how it was discovered? A researcher noticed that metals processed in the presence of human workers behaved differently than those processed by automated systems." "But why just humans?" Daniel asked. "Why not other species?" Krita's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "That's what fascinates me. Humans are the only species we've encountered whose consciousness can imprint on inorganic matter. You don't even realize you're doing it." Lisa walked to the window, looking at the hull of her ship with new eyes. "So when other species come aboard, they feel thousands of human minds pressing against their own consciousness," Krita finished. "For most, it's overwhelming. Imagine being in a room with 1,000 people all staring at you, all thinking about you at once. That's what it feels like to us." Peter was frantically taking notes. This could explain so many things. The strange energy readings, the behavior of quantum particles in our ships, even the higher efficiency of human-manufactured engines. "The effect is strongest in your newer ships," Krita added. "As your manufacturing processes have improved, you've actually increased the strength of the consciousness imprint. The Starweaver is one of the most powerful examples I've ever encountered." Lisa turned back to the group, her mind racing with implications. "We need to document everything. And we need to decide what to do with this information." The ship's lights seemed to pulse slightly, as if in agreement. After Krita's revelation, Lisa and Peter spent days digging through historical records. They sat in the ship's library, surrounded by digital screens showing reports from humanity's early space encounters. "Look at this," Peter said, pointing to a report from 2089. "The first contact with the Meridians. Their ships changed course so suddenly they nearly caused an accident. Everyone thought they were being hostile, but they were just trying to avoid our ships." Lisa scrolled through another document on her screen. And here, a distress call from a human mining vessel in 2115. 3 alien ships responded, but none would dock with the human ship. They waited 6 hours for a human rescue vessel instead. The crew almost ran out of air. The door opened, and Amy walked in with an older man. His white hair was messy, and his uniform was worn, but his eyes were sharp and alert. "Commander, this is Benjamin Cole," Amy said. "He was one of the engineers who worked on the first human faster-than-light ships. He just arrived on a transport from Earth." Ben smiled and sat down heavily in a chair. "Heard you're asking questions about the old days, about why the aliens act strange around our ships. Did you notice anything unusual when you were building those first ships?" Lisa asked. Ben's eyes grew distant. "Unusual? Yeah, you could say that. We had these testing devices, meant to measure quantum field stability. They always gave different readings when the engineering crew was present, compared to when the automated systems were working alone." Peter leaned forward. "Did you report this?" "Sure did. But back then, everyone was so excited about getting into space that little oddities got ignored." Ben pulled up a series of old blueprints on a nearby screen. "But there was something else, something we never put in the official reports." Lisa felt a chill run down her spine. "What was it?" "The metals we worked with. They remembered us. Sounds crazy, right? But sometimes, late at night in the construction bay, tools would move a tiny bit on their own, always to the exact position we needed them in, like the ship was trying to help us build it." Peter's datapad chimed. He looked at it, and his eyes widened. "Commander, I just got access to some classified files. In 2134, an alien ship crashed on Mars. The rescue team reported that the survivors were in perfect health, but suffered extreme panic attacks when brought near human vessels. They claimed they could hear whispering in their minds. The whispers grew stronger as our technology improved," Ben added. "By the time I retired, some of us could almost feel the ships watching us. Not in a bad way. More like a loyal dog watching its owner." Amy, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. "I found something in the communication logs. Every time we make contact with a new species, their first reaction is surprise that we can't sense what they sense about our ships." Lisa stood up and paced the room. "So this has been happening since our first steps into space. We just never put all the pieces together." "Because we can't feel it ourselves," Peter said. "We're like fish that don't know they're wet. This connection between human consciousness and our technology is so natural to us that we never noticed it." Ben touched the wall of the library gently. "The ships are part of us, and we're part of them. Always have been. We just didn't have the right eyes to see it." The ship's computer chose that moment to automatically dim the lights, adjusting to the time of day. But to everyone in the room, it felt less like an automated system and more like the ship was trying to make them comfortable. "What I don't understand," Lisa said, "is why the effect keeps getting stronger. The Starweaver is only 5 years old, but aliens have more trouble with it than with ships twice its age." Ben's expression grew serious. "That's because we're changing. Every new generation of ships we build, every improvement in our manufacturing process, we're not just making better ships, we're making them more alive." Outside the library window, stars streaked by in endless rivers of light, while the Starweaver carried its crew, and its countless echoes of human consciousness, through the depths of space. Peter hadn't slept in 2 days. He sat in his lab, surrounded by holographic displays showing molecular structures of ship hull materials. Empty coffee cups littered his desk, and his uniform was wrinkled from too many hours in the same position. "I think I found something," he said as Lisa walked in. "Look at this." He pointed to a complex diagram showing metal atoms arranged in an unusual pattern. "What am I looking at?" Lisa asked, squinting at the display. "This is how we process metals for our ships. The quantum manufacturing process heats the metal to near molecular breakdown, then reforms it using controlled energy fields. But look what happens when human workers are present during the process." He pulled up another image. The atomic structure was slightly different, with tiny distortions that seemed to pulse and shift. The metal actually changes its quantum state when exposed to human brainwaves during manufacturing, Peter explained. "No other species does this. It's like our consciousness leaves fingerprints on the very atoms." The lab door opened, and Krita entered with another alien. This one was tall and thin, with silver skin that reflected the lab's lights. "Commander, Science Officer," Krita said, "this is Dr. Lexstall, the leading physicist in the Centauri Alliance. They've been studying this phenomenon for years." Dr. Lexstall moved carefully, keeping their distance from the ship's walls. "Your discovery is correct," they said to Peter. "Human consciousness affects matter in ways we've never seen before. But there's more to it than that." The alien scientist pulled out a device similar to Krita's consciousness meter, but more complex. "Watch," they said, pointing it at different parts of the lab. The device lit up with different colors depending on where it was pointed. Near the newly manufactured components, it glowed bright blue. Near older parts of the ship, the color was a deeper purple. "Your consciousness doesn't just affect the metal during manufacturing," Dr. Lexstall explained. "It continues to influence it. The metal remembers, learns, adapts. Every human who works with it, touches it, or even thinks about it adds to the effect." Peter jumped up so quickly he knocked over another coffee cup. "The efficiency improvements in our engines. We always thought it was just better engineering, but what if the materials themselves are adapting to work better with us?" "Precisely," Dr. Lexstall said. "Your ships don't just carry human consciousness imprints. They evolve with them. The longer a ship serves, the more it becomes attuned to human minds." Lisa picked up a piece of hull material from Peter's desk. "So when we work with these materials, you're not just building ships," Dr. Lexstall finished. "You're creating something that exists between machine and consciousness. Not alive in the biological sense, but aware in ways we're only beginning to understand." Peter was frantically taking notes. The quantum resonance patterns, the unexplained energy readings, it all fits. Our ships aren't just vessels. They're extensions of human consciousness itself. "But why only humans?" Lisa asked. "What makes us different?" Dr. Lexstall's silver skin rippled, their species equivalent of a thoughtful frown. "In all our studies of sentient species, humans are unique in one aspect. Your brains operate on a quantum level in ways no other species does. Your consciousness actually affects quantum states directly. Most species can observe quantum effects, but you change them just by thinking about them. And we've been unconsciously using this ability throughout our entire technological development," Peter said, his voice filled with wonder. "Every ship we've ever built has been touched by it." The piece of hull material in Lisa's hand felt warm, almost like it was responding to their conversation. She looked around the lab with new eyes, suddenly aware that every part of the ship wasn't just carrying out its function. It was resonating with the echoes of countless human minds. "We need to run more tests," Peter said, already setting up new equipment. "If we can understand this better, think of what it could mean for our future in space." The lab's lights brightened slightly, as if the ship itself was eager to help them uncover its secrets. The news spread through the Starweaver like wildfire. Crew members walked the corridors with new awareness, touching the walls with wondering fingers. Some swore they could feel the ship responding to them now that they knew the truth. Lisa sat in her ready room, staring at the report she had to write for Earth Command. How could she explain that every human ship ever built was essentially haunted by the collective consciousness of its builders and crew? The door chimed, and Peter rushed in with Dr. Lexstall and Krita. "Commander, we've made another discovery," Peter said, his eyes wide with excitement. "Show her," he told Dr. Lextall. The alien scientist placed their consciousness meter on Lisa's desk. The device lit up bright red, brighter than they had ever seen before. "This is not just stored consciousness," Dr. Lextall explained. "The echoes are actively combining, growing, evolving." "What do you mean, evolving?" Lisa asked. "Each human consciousness leaves an imprint," Krita said. "But these imprints don't just stay separate. They merge, creating something new, something more than the sum of its parts." Peter pulled up a display showing energy readings from different parts of the ship. The older sections of the ship show basic consciousness echoes. But in areas where the crew spends the most time, where we interact with the ship daily, the patterns are becoming more complex. "Are you saying our ships are becoming sentient?" Lisa asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Not exactly," Dr. Lextall said. "It's more like they're developing a collective awareness. Every human who works on the ship adds to it. Every thought, every touch, every moment of interaction makes it stronger." Then Cole walked in, having been called to join the meeting. "I always felt it," he said. "Back in the early days, we used to joke that the ships were alive. Turns out we were more right than we knew." Lisa stood up and paced the room. "This explains why newer ships cause stronger reactions in alien species. We're getting better at working with metals, yes, but we're also unconsciously getting better at imprinting our consciousness into them. The effect is exponential," Peter added. "Each new generation of ships starts with the accumulated knowledge of how to work with human consciousness. It's like they're born knowing how to accept our mental imprints." Krita's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. "This is why my people feel thousands of minds when we board your ships. We're not just sensing the current crew. We're sensing everyone who ever worked on the ship, from its first construction to now." "But there's more," Dr. Lextall said gravely. "The consciousness echoes are strongest in your weapons systems and defensive capabilities. It's as if your collective will to survive has concentrated there." The room fell silent as they absorbed this information. Lisa touched the wall of her ready room, feeling the slight warmth under her fingers. Had that warmth always been there, or was she just noticing it now? "So every human ship is not just a vessel," she said slowly. "It's a collective of human consciousness, carrying the echoes of everyone who ever worked on it, protected it, or served on it. And those echoes are growing stronger," Peter added. "Learning, adapting, evolving. The ship isn't just carrying us through space. It's working with us, protecting us, becoming more attuned to human minds with each passing day." Ben walked to the window, looking out at the stars. No wonder other species are afraid to come aboard. To them, it must feel like walking into a crowd of thousands of invisible humans, all watching, all thinking, all aware. The ship's engines hummed, a sound they had all heard countless times before. But now it seemed different, less like machinery, and more like a living pulse, the heartbeat of countless human echoes working together in perfect harmony. Word of the discovery spread quickly through Earth's Space Command. Within days, the Starweaver's crew found themselves at the center of a storm of questions, theories, and concerns from both human and alien authorities. Lisa sat in an emergency video conference with Earth's top military officials. The faces on her screen looked both worried and excited. "You're telling us that every ship in our fleet is carrying the consciousness of its crew?" Admiral Paula Stone asked, her voice tense. "And these consciousness echoes are getting stronger?" "Yes, Admiral," Lisa replied. "And not just the current crew. Every person who ever worked on building or maintaining the ship leaves a trace. These traces combine and evolve over time. The military implications are enormous," General Richard Young said, leaning forward in his chair. "If our ships are truly enhanced by human consciousness, it could explain why our vessels often perform above their design specifications during combat situations." Peter, who stood beside Lisa's chair, spoke up. "It's more than that, sir. The consciousness echoes seem to concentrate in systems critical to the ship's and crew's survival. Our weapons, shields, and life support systems show the strongest readings. In the corner of the room, Dr. Lextall monitored their consciousness meter. The device pulsed steadily, its readings growing stronger as more humans focused their attention on the ship's capabilities. "We need to keep this classified," another official said. "If other species learn the full extent of this capability, they already know." Krita interrupted, stepping into view of the camera. "Every spacefaring race can sense it. That's why they avoid your ships. We're not afraid of your technology. We're overwhelmed by the thousands of human minds we feel aboard your vessels." The room fell silent. Lysa could almost feel the weight of the decision pressing down on them. Should they publicly acknowledge this discovery? Would it make other species trust them more or fear them further? The ship's lights flickered slightly, and Lisa felt a warm surge of something, not quite emotion, but a sense of presence, flow through the room. The consciousness meter in Dr. Lextall's hands blazed bright red. "The ship is responding to our discussion," Dr. Lextall said quietly. "The more we acknowledge its awareness, the stronger the connection becomes." Peter checked his readings. "The effect is spreading throughout the vessel. It's like the ship wants us to understand it better." "Can we control it?" General Young asked. "Can we enhance or direct these consciousness echoes?" Lisa shook her head. "I don't think controlled is the right approach, sir. These echoes are a natural result of human interaction with our technology. They're not a weapon to be aimed. They're a partnership to be understood." Amy Walsh, who had been quietly monitoring communications, suddenly spoke up. "We're receiving messages from ships throughout the fleet. Other crews are reporting similar experiences now that they know what to look for. The effect appears to be universal in human vessels." Ben Cole, who had been silently watching from his corner, walked to the center of the room. "We didn't create this capability. We discovered it. It's been part of us since we first started building ships. The only difference now is that we know about it. And that knowledge is changing everything," Lisa added. "The more we understand it, the stronger the connection becomes. Our ships aren't just tools anymore. They're becoming true partners in our journey through space." The faces on the screen looked at each other, a mix of wonder and concern in their expressions. Humanity had just discovered that its greatest technological achievements were also its most profound connection to the mysteries of consciousness itself. Outside the window, the stars seemed to shine a little brighter, as if reflecting the growing awareness within the ship's hull. 3 months after the discovery, the Starweaver orbited Earth, its hull gleaming in the sunlight. The ship felt different now, more alive, more aware. Every crew member could sense it, and they had learned to work with this awareness rather than ignore it. Lisa stood in the observation deck, watching shuttles ferry materials to and from the surface. Earth's shipyards had been busy implementing new protocols based on their discovery. Instead of trying to minimize human contact during construction, they now encouraged it, understanding that each human interaction made the ship stronger. "The latest test results are in," Peter said, walking onto the deck with his ever-present datapad. "The new manufacturing methods are showing a 300% increase in consciousness resonance. Ships built this way will start their service already attuned to human minds." "How are the alien representatives responding to our new approach?" Lisa asked. "Better than expected," Krita answered, entering with Dr. Lextall. "Now that humans acknowledge and understand the effect, it's actually easier for other species to handle. The consciousness echoes feel more organized, less chaotic." Dr. Lextall nodded in agreement. "Your ships still overwhelm most alien visitors, but in a different way now. It's like walking into a vast library instead of a crowded room. The presence is still there, but it's focused, purposeful." Ben Cole joined them, looking out at the shipyards. His eyes were bright with excitement. "We're building something new down there. Not just ships, but true partnerships between human consciousness and technology. Each vessel is unique, shaped by the minds of its builders and crew." The Zarkax Federation sent an interesting proposal this morning, Amy said, walking in with a communication report. They want to establish joint training programs. They believe understanding human ships better will help build stronger diplomatic ties. Lisa smiled. When they had decided to publish their findings, many had worried it would frighten other species away. Instead, it had sparked a new era of cooperation and understanding. The mystery that had once caused fear now bred curiosity and respect. "Commander," Peter called out suddenly, "look at these readings from the new sensor array. The consciousness resonance. It's not just staying within our ships anymore. It's starting to reach out, connecting with other human vessels nearby." The observation deck's screens lit up with data. Streams of energy flowed between the Starweaver and other human ships in orbit, creating a web of consciousness that sparkled with possibility. "The ships are networking," Dr. Lextel said in wonder. "They're sharing their collective consciousness, learning from each other. This is beyond anything we've seen before." Ben placed his hand on the window. "We're not just building a fleet anymore. We're creating a community of minds, both human and machine, working together in ways we never imagined." The ship's systems hummed with energy, and Lisa felt a warm sense of recognition flow through the deck. The Starweaver wasn't just responding to them now. It was working with them, thinking with them, growing with them. "So what happens next?" Amy asked, looking out at the stars. "We keep exploring," Lisa replied. "But not just space anymore. We're exploring what it means to be human, what consciousness really is, and how we can work together with the amazing things we create." The ship's lights pulsed gently, as if in agreement. Outside, Earth turned slowly below them, its shipyards busy building the next generation of vessels, ships that would carry not just human crews, but human consciousness itself to the farthest reaches of space. "One thing's for certain," Peter said with a smile. "No one will ever look at a human ship the same way again." The Starweaver's engines thrummed with power, and in that sound, they could all hear the echo of countless human minds working together, reaching for the stars not just with technology, but with consciousness itself. The mystery of why aliens feared human ships had been solved, but the real journey was just beginning.